is my 1997 Land Rover Defender. Now, a lot of online car commenters and journalists and car personalities talk about how they love the Defender and it's an icon and blah, 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 but I'm one of the few people who actually owns one. And not only that, I use it every single day. It is my daily driver. So as you can imagine, this has been a pretty big week for me because Land Rover just revealed the new Defender. And a lot of people have been asking me what I think about it. Today, I'm going to tell you. All right, first I want to talk about the basics here to give a little bit of a sense of context. The new Defender that was just revealed this week is the first new Defender since the original Defender. So it's a pretty big deal. Now, the original Defender traces its lineage back to the original Land Rover in the 1940s, and it was sort of evolved and updated and modernized. They started calling it the Defender in about 1990, and it was sold here in the United States for 4 years. In the 1990s, and then it was sold globally through 2015, 2016. Now, I only bring up the history here because there's a lot of it, like 60 or 70 years of history with the kind of entry-level little Land Rover capable off-road vehicle, the Series 1, the Series 2, the Series 3 became the 90, the 110, then the Defender. It's just a lot of years of evolving and developing a brand identity and a cult following, and so there was a lot of pressure when it came to create the new one. And I think they nailed it. Now, before I explain why I think they nailed it, let me go over the basics of what we are getting with the new Defender. There's going to be a 2-door and a 4-door, and there's 2 engines for North America. There is a turbocharged 4-cylinder that's going to make about 300 horsepower, and there's a mild hybrid straight 6 for about 400 horsepower. The 6-cylinder will do 0 to 60 in 5.7, 5.8 seconds, 2 or 4-door. Really impressive. Foreign markets are also getting some diesels, and then there's going to be a plug-in hybrid that comes later, no surprise. Now here's the thing that I'm really impressed with. Pricing starts around $50,000 with shipping, and that is for the 110, the 4-door model, the larger one of the two. The 2-door version is going to be delayed a few months after the 4-door version, and my assumption is that the 2-door is going to be priced a little cheaper. So let's start with the reasons why I think Land Rover nailed it with the new Defender, did a great job. The biggest, number one, chief reason is the price. I kept seeing spy shots for the new Defender, and then Land Rover would release their own spy shots, and then things would leak. And I kept getting nervous that they were going to price it like the Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon, which is now starting price $125,000. And I was thinking, well, they're going to price it there to compete with that, and I'm never going to be able to afford one of these. I can't spend $125,000 and then it loses value and it's a disaster. But instead, it's going to start at $50,000. Now that's a huge, huge deal because a Wrangler Sahara 4-door, Wrangler Unlimited Sahara, starts at $40,000. So this thing is not dramatically more expensive than a Wrangler Unlimited. That's a huge, huge thing. That's so cool. Everybody thought this was going to be out of reach for most people, and it absolutely isn't. The Defender is not overly expensive. A lot of people reached out to me on Twitter over the last few months and said, oh, the new Defender is just going to be a lifestyle toy for rich moms to go to the store. Well, it turns out it's a lot more affordable than we all thought. Now, 50 grand, I admit, to start is a lot of money, but the average new car costs $38,000. And to get a Land Rover from a luxury brand and this iconic car and a very capable car, which we'll talk about in a minute, to get all that starting at 50 is a huge, huge deal. And yes, obviously, once you go into the configurator and you start to add options, by the way, the configurator is up right now. I wasted about an hour there yesterday. But once you go in and start adding options, yeah, sure, you know, the one you would want kind of comes to 65 to 70, but it's still half the price of a G-Wagon, and you can equip a Wrangler well above 50. So this thing is absolutely in the affordable wheelhouse for off-roader territory. So pricing is a big deal, but that's not the only reason why I think Land Rover did a great job with the new Defender. Another one is that capabilities are awesome. There was a lot of fear that the new Defender would kind of be dumbed down because it's gonna be not a body-on-frame truck, and it wouldn't be as capable as the old one or very capable at all. Not true. Ground clearance maxes out with the new Defender at 11.5 inches. The Wrangler's at 10.5. So the Defender has an inch more ground clearance than the Wrangler. That's pretty impressive. The Defender's departure angle is also better than the Wrangler's. The approach angle is not quite as good as the Wrangler. That's not a big surprise. You know, the Wrangler has this big front sticky out bumper and not much bodywork up there. If you're gonna put bodywork and style a car, you pretty much have to give up a little bit of approach angle, and it only gives up a couple of degrees, but departure is better than Wrangler. But this is my very favorite stat, the maximum water fording depth, okay? The max water fording depth in a Wrangler is 30 inches. The max water fording depth in a G-Wagon 4x4 squared, that's the lifted wide-body G-Wagon with portal axles, that thing will ford 38 inches. Okay, so that's kind of your off-roader parameters. Wrangler is 30, G-Wagon squared is 38. The Defender is 35 and a half. So in the Defender's maximum configuration, its water fording depth is actually closer to the G-Wagon 4x4 squared than it is to the Wrangler, which is just insane since that thing has portal axles. But that's one of the benefits of the Defender. It has available air suspension that can lift it up, and that provides some of those absolutely incredible off-roading numbers. Now, those off-roading numbers are really, really important because even though the vast majority of people will not off-road the new Defender, if they're gonna call it the Defender, it has to be really, really capable. And I got a lot of tweets and emails and Facebook posts over the last couple of months from Land Rover purists saying they're gonna ruin it, they're gonna make it a unibody crossover, it's not gonna be able to climb anything more than a parking curb at the mall. Well, actually, it has really, really strong numbers. It looks like it's gonna be a tremendously capable off-roader. And so that argument is also kind of gone, just like the one about pricing. And guess what? We also have a very good looking new Defender. Now, obviously looks are subjective, so I'm not gonna spend too much time on this, but over the last couple of years, I've really thought to myself, what I want Land Rover to do is just take my Defender and make it modern, put in new modern tech and features, and I would love that. And that's what Mercedes did with the G-Wagon, and I thought they did a great job. But over the last few weeks and months, I've started to realize I don't know that I necessarily really do want that. You know, it's been 20 years since my Defender existed. It came out 30, 40 years ago, depending what iteration you want to look at. Maybe it's time we kind of move on a little bit in design. And I think Land Rover has done a great job doing that. You know, Land Rover hires designers who know a lot more than me, and they realized like maybe it'd be better to move the game forward. And so the Wrangler and the G-Wagon, the risk you run kind of keeping the same look is that the cars start to look outdated. And the Wrangler just looks the same. It's looked the same for years, and it doesn't really look that modern. And the new G-Wagon looks great, but I will say, looking at the new Defender, it looks like a much more modern, sleeker, cooler, cleaner design. It's sort of like the difference between like a 1930s craftsman home next to a brand new modern house. And you know, the 30s craftsman, there's a lot of cool stuff there, and I love the new G-Wagon, I love how it looks. But that modern house has some really big windows and some cool stuff, and I really think making kind of a clean sheet was a really smart thing to do. Now, with that said, they also did a great job keeping it looking like a Defender. It still has the profile of a Defender. It still has the square back of a Defender, which is a big deal because most modern SUVs are so swoopy, and I just hate that. They kept it. It's still square, it's still boxy, it still looks like a Defender. I think it's a great new take on an old design. And then there are the features. The new Defender has some insane off-roading stuff from the factory. From the factory, it will offer a winch, a shower, a ladder to the roof, a snorkel, a brush guard, a locking center diff, automatic rear diff, an air compressor, heavy-duty rubber flooring, steel wheels. Steel wheels. There was a Land Rover in 2019 with steel wheels. They didn't even offer my Defender in '97 with steel wheels. They briefly offered it in '94 in the US, but then they got rid of it. Nobody was getting it. You can get it now 25 years later on a Defender. I think that is so, so, so cool. And of course, there's tons of new tech also. New infotainment system, all the latest safety features. I have always said, I wish I could have my Defender, but with safety features like airbags and anti-lock brakes and crumple zones. And now Land Rover has created that. And that's pretty cool too. So there's a ton of off-roading kit and a ton of technology and features. You add that to what I think is a good looking car, well priced, and very capable, and it's like, what's not to like? Now let's talk about what's not to like. Now purists are gonna say, and have said already, oh, they've ruined an icon. They've ruined it. And to me, there was no way to avoid that. I think purists were going to say that no matter what, unless it really was a body-on-frame V8 solid axle. That was the only way not to upset the purists. And if they had done that, they still would have been upset for some other reason. The truth is, let's be realistic. It's 2019. We've learned a lot about building automobiles in the last 40 years since the Defender's been updated basically last. That was just never going to happen. It wasn't realistic, and people who talk like that are never going to get rid of their old Defenders anyway. That's a stupid argument. But I think what Land Rover has done is they've taken some of the things we really like about the old one, its looks, its capabilities, some of the features like steel wheels, cloth interior, and they've modernized it, and I think that that's really fantastic. Now the question then is, well, is there anything not to like about it? And to me, I've really looked through it, and I think there are two things that I identify that I wish had changed. And one is, it's not a convertible. That's a big deal for me. Globally, the Defender is not known as a convertible. That's not something people think about. When you talk about the Defender in the UK, they think pickup, four-door. Convertible is rare. Most people aren't pulling off their roofs in the rest of the world. But here in North America, the Defender was sold with an open top, as you can see. And some of my greatest memories in my Defender, driving down Milestone Road on Nantucket with my best friend, listening to Call Me Maybe, or driving down the Pacific Coast Highway in Laguna Beach with my wife and our hair flying in the wind. And this is the only vehicle I've ever had. I've had 25 cars. It's the only one my wife loves. And I think being able to open the top is a big part of that. And I think a fun off-roader type vehicle should have a convertible. The Wrangler is obviously a removable roof. The Gladiator is. The G-Wagon, they made a convertible version for years. And I really think the Defender is missing that. And I'm really, really sad they didn't do it. My thinking is if you can make a convertible Evoque, you could make a convertible Defender. And I really hope that's coming. The second thing that I wish they were doing, I do wish there was a V8. And hear me out. I think the purists are like, put a V8 in it. And I think that's a stupid argument. But I just like a V8. I like the torque of a V8. I like how it feels. The new Defender has incredible towing numbers, 8,200 pounds. It probably doesn't need a V8. And honestly, the 6-cylinder's horsepower number, 400, torque is around there too, probably enough. So I'm gonna drive it, and if I like the 6 enough, fine. But a V8 would be nice. They make V8s in their other stuff. Why not put it in the Defender too? But those are really my only complaints. Otherwise, I think Land Rover killed it. I can't believe, I was so nervous that they would screw it up. And I can't believe that they didn't, because they've screwed up some other cars recently. So the big question then is, obviously, I love my Defender. I've had it 2.5 years. It's my daily driver. Clearly, I like the new one. The question a lot of people have been asking me is, am I going to get one? And for starters, I think I'm late. A lot of people put down deposits at Land Rover dealers like a year ago, before it was ever revealed what it was going to look like and all the specs. And so there's a lot of people on the list before me. I talked to my local Land Rover dealer. They said there's a lot of interested people. I think if I raise my hand now, I would probably be pretty low on the list, and my car would be pretty delayed. I've been told they're going to start arriving in the spring. I think if you start ordering now, you're probably looking at a long delay after that. There's going to be a lot of demand for this thing right when it first comes out. So I'm certainly not going to get one right away. But yeah, I think I'll probably get one. My Mercedes station wagon that I daily drive for longer distances and when it's raining, the warranty on that is going to expire in less than a year. So a new Defender seems like a pretty good replacement. And it just looks like the kind of vehicle that I want. But I'm not going to sign up right away. I'm not going to show up at the dealer with my money and say, I want to be first. Because there are two things I'm still holding out hope for. One is that they make like a high performance version, like an SVR model. And I don't want like a fast Defender. What I want from an SVR is like a Raptor, like more power, yeah, but also like beefier tires, wider, cooler lighting in the front, more off-roading stuff. I think that would be super cool. And I'm sure they're gonna make that in a year or two. And if they do, I am there. I will buy that thing for sticker. I am all over like an SVR off-roader focused new Defender. That would be awesome. And also I'm kind of holding out hope that they will make a convertible. They did make a convertible of the Evoque. It took them a few years after it first came out. And so I'm kind of hoping that maybe there will be a Defender convertible. And obviously if they make that, done. It wouldn't even be a question. I will be the first guy at the dealer to buy one of those. But those are my thoughts on the new Defender. I really think it's a good car. All of this, of course, is on paper. I've never seen it. Land Rover lets some other YouTubers have some early access to it. I'm not Land Rover's favorite guy. I don't get included in that stuff. But I'm really excited to see it. I've been told it comes out this spring, like I mentioned, and I'm excited to check it out in person, to drive it, and to show you its quirks and features.